it was just a pleasure to be able to be in a place with owners like the Hunt family.
Yeah.
We never wanted for anything, as much as I probably assume that the Chiefs players never want for anything. Now that's a class act family, and as you know, Mike and Jeff, not a lot of organizations out there like the Chiefs.
You are listening to KC Sports Network, the #1 podcast network for today's Kansas City sports fans. With former players from your favorite teams, informed perspectives, and former insiders, this is the place for you. You can find us wherever you listen to podcasts or on our YouTube channel, all over social media, or our morning newsletter, KCSN Daily, dedicated to your Kansas City Chiefs. KC Sports Network is proudly presented by Emprise Bank, your partner in possible.
Chiefs Kingdom, we are back. Welcome to One-on-One, a KC Sports Network podcast. We have an incredibly special episode today because we got two Chiefs legends in the building. 9-year NFL veteran and Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion Jeff Allen, as always. Big Jeff, what's up, brother?
Hey, listen, man. We got three. We got three on the screen right now.
Well, and then we have
three Chiefs legends. You know, you got you, Mike DeVito. Don't sell yourself short. I'm doing well, man. I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Excited to have Hicks on the show, man. I want to hear some stories. Tell me all the embarrassing stuff you know about Mike. I need to hear it.
Yeah, and he does. He's got a whole bunch of good stuff. We got my brother. You are top 5 Chiefs leaders in total sacks, Chiefs legend, 12 years in the game, and somebody that I have a ton of respect for because I came in as a rookie with you on that defensive line in New York. So we got my brother, Eric Hicks. Hicksy, what's up, brother? Thank you so much for coming on, man. How you doing?
What's up, Mike? What's up, Jeff? It's good to be here, man. Just battling this heat in Kansas City. Got a little heat wave going, 100 degrees today temperature-wise, so trying to stay inside as much as I can.
Good.
I can't even imagine what it's like out there. I'm up here in northern Maine, and it's friggin' 90 degrees, so I can't imagine what you guys are dealing with. But, man, we got all kinds of exciting stuff to talk about today. Big Jeff, before we get into it, let's talk about our sponsor, Cookie Society Cookies. Jeff,
yes, sir.
Remind us again, what's on the docket? What is Cookie Society got coming out this month?
Man, it's a big month. We have peanut butter and jelly on the menu, lemon sugar, cinnamon roll, cosmic brownie. I mean, the list goes on. I'm sure I'm missing a few of them. But check out the website, www.cookiesociety.com. Follow us on all social platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Look at that. Dunkaroos right there. You got the email. I got you. That's marketing. Right?
The email's always coming in.
That's marketing. That's marketing for you. And we have cookie butter. I just saw it on the screen. So check us out. Check us out. It's going to be a good month. Don't forget about the merch. Best T-shirts in the game. Mike can attest to that. So check us out, man.
Hands down. All right, let's get into it, guys. Hicksy, listen, I was so excited. I've been bothering you for, years now to come on the pod, and I couldn't wait to talk to you. Our careers, obviously, I came in when you were leaving, but we're similar in the sense that we spent most of our time on two of the same teams, right, with New York and Kansas City. And I came in as a rookie in 2007 with the Jets, and that was, you were just signed there as a veteran. And I remember when I first came in, and I'm coming in as as this young kid out of college, thinking, hey, these are my teammates, and we're gonna get after it and all this stuff, and not realizing what the NFL was like. And I remember sitting next to you in OTAs, and we hadn't even met yet, and I said, all right, everybody's told me to ask the veterans questions to get their wisdom and stuff. And so I was like, hey, Hicksy, what do you think of this? And I remember you looked at me like this, and you just looked back, right? You totally just ignored when you were like, get out of here. I don't want nothing to do with this rookie. But then come into the season, you really took me under your wing and helped me out through that difficult year in New York in 2007. But we'll get into that. But I want to talk first about your time in Kansas City. Obviously, you spent most of your years there. and top 5 in all-time sacks. I mean, when you look at who's played for Kansas City, that's really saying something. So I want to go back all the way to your rookie year, Hicksy, 1998. You're coming into training camp. Talk me through, man. What's it like being a rookie for the Kansas City Chiefs in 1998?
Well, that year we had a very interesting team. We had a lot of veterans. It was Marty Schottenheimer's team, his last year in Kansas City. I honestly don't know how I survived that year with the amount of characters that we had on our team. It was an eclectic group to say the least. We had people like Dale Carter, who was one of the wildest defensive backs ever to play in the NFL. We had Chester McLaughlin, Leslie O'Neal, Warren Moon. Had a lot of legendary guys on that team. But it was fun. It was fun to be able to be starstruck for a while when I got there, and then finally kind of settle into my role, realizing that starstruck's not going to get you anything but cut. But I was able to admire their personalities and their style of play, a little bit up close. And there's some things you take from them and some things you don't take from them. But it was a very exciting year.
I'm curious, Eric. So when we played in the Jets that year in 2007, that was the hardest training camp of my career. That 2007 Eric Mangini training camp in New York. What did that now? And obviously, as my career went on, the rules changed. You can only have one practice a day, and yada yada yada. And so things got easier just by the structure of it. But what did that training camp compare? How did that compare to the training camps you had in Kansas City, specifically at rookie? I'm curious. Like, was that as hard or as I thought it was, or was it just me being a rookie?
No, it was difficult, and you can remember how hot it was in Hempstead that summer. And we wore black shoes and black spat and all that. Feel like your feet are melting. But yeah, that was a hard one. I'll bring up which one I thought was harder. But yes, you're right. My rookie year training camp was very hard. Played 5 preseason games. We were in camp for like 7. We went to Japan. We went to Norman, Oklahoma to play. And it almost seemed like that was never going to end. And I thought I was going to die until Dick Vermeil's first training camp. And if for anybody who's ever seen the movie Invincible, it was like that, but with better high quality video. it was flat brutal, and I love Coach Vermeil. I'm going to see him get inducted in the Hall of Fame this week. But that first training camp he put on was a sight to behold.
I can't even imagine. I mean, if that was harder than Mangini's 2007 camp, I don't even know how you made it. I remember I got done with that camp, and I hadn't seen my dad for the month that we were there. And he saw me, and I remember him saying, "What happened to you?" Like the first time he saw me after that month of training camp in New York, he's like, "You look terrible. Like you look dying, man. We gotta get you to the hospital." Yeah, that camp was so hard. So I can't even imagine what it was like with Dick Vermeil. Talk me through that, Hicksy. Not the camp so much, but playing for those legendary coaches. I mean, you played with Schottenheimer, Vermeil, Edwards. Talk to me about sort of the different coaching styles that you experienced in Kansas City and what how those differed, how they were the same, what that was like. Because you played with some legends, for some legends.
Yeah, it's exciting times. I got to compete and be taught by some of the most influential members in the history of the NFL. My first year with Marty Schottenheimer was great. Marty was a players coach. He set everything up for the players to be successful. He was always approachable. He was approachable to rookie guys like me. He was approachable to the last guy on the roster age-wise. And Marty, rest his soul, was quite an inspiration, not only to the football team, but the city of Kansas City, because he had been there so long. And I honestly hope he makes the Hall of Fame. Having not won a Super Bowl is holding him back. but you could see the success with the other teams that he had. So that was a great experience. You're right. I also played for Dick Vermeil for 5 years, and I've never known a sense of family like that. My family growing up wasn't all that tight or all that affectionate with each other, but honestly, Coach Vermeil taught me how to be affectionate, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
Our whole team was so strong that we thought we could line up and face anything as long as we were together. It was exciting. All the guys bought in. Like I said, he had to weed some guys out when he got there. Some of the turds, as we call them, but he did it, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so thankful to him. He changed my life, obviously, in a lot of different ways. But him and his wife Carol are two of the best people on earth. They're very salt of the earth, I would say.
Man, I'm sitting here and I'm in awe hearing all these stories and everything. And it was great to hear you talk about, coach, making you more vulnerable, and to say that's what great leaders do. But what I want to know is, what was it like playing with Will Shields? That's one of my all-time favorite players. I grew up playing offensive line. He called my name at the draft. What was it like playing with a Hall of Fame guy like that?
Well, I was in my whole career in Kansas City with Will. It's almost undescribable the level of talent he has, but what trumps that is the type of man he is. He's one of the best teammates I've ever had, one of the best friends I've ever had. If there was a word I would say with Will, it was consistent. And Will wasn't one of those fall out of bed guys and just go play football. He worked at his craft. He worked at his craft tirelessly. And he went up against some of the best three techniques in the history of football during his era, and he more than held his own. He's a Hall of Famer, obviously, and a good man, like I said. But Will let you beat in pass protection. He'll let you beat yourself, and then he'll make his move. He's not an overly aggressive guy. Waits for you to come to him, and then he finishes you.
Yeah.
you might think I got this guy right now, but you must not have watched film because there's not too many guys getting back there.
Definitely.
That's a really interesting point because, I was able to spend some time around Will, both in Kansas City and in New York, and not when he was playing, just as a coach. And he doesn't have that demeanor of like a sort of mauler, nasty offensive lineman. He has that sort of, like, you could tell he was a technician just from the way he carries himself, his personality. You could tell he's a great person. But it's just interesting to hear you say that, because that's what I wanted to follow up and ask what type of player, he was like, what made him so great. We were talking about Mitchell Schwartz before we hopped on, and how he's sort of cut from that same mold, right? Where it's like, these guys didn't have to be aggressive, didn't have to be these big nasty maulers. They just knew how to play the game so well. They were so smart. Technique was so great, and like you said, they make you beat yourself. With that in mind, I've always been curious to ask you this, Eric. Who was the most difficult offensive lineman you had to play against? One, against the Chiefs, in practice while your time there, and then two, in the NFL in general. Who were the most difficult guys you had to go against?
Well, the guy I went the longest against was from the Raiders, and the guy named Lincoln Kennedy. And I'm sure all you guys remember him.
Mm-hmm.
360-pound mother. And having to play them twice a year, just tossing around that weight and handling his sheer size made him very difficult for me. Now, I won mine, he won his, and I think we would have mutual respect for each other at the end of the day if we ever had the chance to meet up again. But he was probably my most difficult because I saw him twice a year, and he was a really good player. Now, all time in the NFL, I'd have to say probably a guy named Kyle Turley. Kyle Turley played for the Rams and the Chiefs, but he might have had a couple other teams in there. But he was such a technician as a right tackle. He was very hard to beat, and yeah, that's what I have to say about that.
How about in Kansas City? How about going against the Chiefs in training camp? Who were the most? Who was one of the most difficult Chiefs that you had to face?
Well, and that's hands down Willie Rofe, who was
Okay.
our left tackle. Now I played on the left side, meaning I went against the right tackle quite a bit. But Willie would also always ask me in camp. He'd be like, "Hicks, man, I need you to rush on me. I need to get a good rush from a big guy before I feel comfortable."
Right.
This is before the Jared Allen days.
Right.
So we didn't have a player on the other end quite with that ability. So he would always want me to give him some work to get ready for the beginning of the season.
That's really an honor when you have a guy like that saying, "Hey, come over here and get me ready." I mean, that is pretty impressive. Gosh, I have so many questions for you, Hicksy, and Jeff, forgive me if I keep cutting you off.
No, man. Listen, I'm a spectator today, man. I'm
Oh,
glad to sit, learn, and listen to y'all stories and y'all experiences. Obviously, I'm a younger guy compared to
well,
y'all, but it's always good to soak up knowledge.
yeah, no, I mean, it was. I learned so much from you, Hicksy. I want to go back. I'm bouncing all over the place, but one thing I'm interested in is, you had the career of a first round draft pick. I mean, you're one of the best pass rushers to ever play the game. Um, uh, but you came in as an undrafted free agent, and that's really interesting to make that and really incredible to be able to come in as an undrafted guy and go down as one of the best pass rushers ever. So I'm curious, what did it take uh, and another important point along these same lines is when you look at the game back then, the game that you played in. I mean, Hicksy, we can talk about this later, but you probably would have had double the number of sacks that you had back then that if you played now, given how much people throw the football. I mean, it was a run league back then. But sorry, so I'm just curious. In '98, what did it take to make the team as an undrafted free agent?
Oh boy, a little bit of luck. That's
Yeah,
definitely a big driving factor in making any NFL roster. Um, I wasn't shy when I first came in as a undrafted free agent. Most guys would just be, "I'm happy to be here. Oh, I made the team. I'm happy to be here. I finally got this big check and all that." Um, a number of people brought me along and would sit with me late in the evenings in River Falls.
yeah.
Were you in River Falls, Mike?
No, Jeff, we were in
St. Joseph.
St. Joseph. Yeah, sorry.
Okay,
Yeah,
so we were at the University of Wisconsin River Falls
right.
for our training camp, and people like Derek Thomas and Leslie O'Neal and Chester McLaughlin would sit with me after our night meetings were over and watch film with me. And they
Mm,
said they did that because they thought I had some potential. So they're paying it forward, essentially. They didn't use those words.
right.
But, you know, just the confidence it built in me from having those veterans not latch onto me, but obviously help me in a tremendous way. That really propelled me.
Yeah.
And I was always the hardest running guy in practice. I went both ways. I played offense, played tight end when we had to go against our defense. And on defense, obviously, I went against the offense. So, the old saying in the NFL, the more you can do.
Right.
So I was able to build up a little bit of a wall around me because I tried to do everything that they asked me to do and do it to the best of my ability. And that's not hard.
Yeah.
Do something to the best of your ability is a personal choice. So
Right.
Yeah.
I decided to, hop on that train, and 10 years later, it was all over.
Yeah.
Man, we talk about just your mental makeup in your early life. I saw you from PA.
Yes.
And when a lot of folks think about football culture, they talk about Texas, they talk about California and Ohio, some of these other states, but people don't know there's some tough motherfuckers from Pennsylvania. You talk about, Pennsylvania and the football culture there.
Oh yeah, I grew up in Western Pennsylvania, in Erie, right on Lake Erie, and that's a smaller town. We didn't have the football acumen that people downstate had. But if you go into the NFL Hall of Fame today, and you want to see where the majority of the Hall of Fame quarterbacks came from, it was Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Mm,
Uh, there's a long line. Can't list them all today, but there's a long line of Hall of Fame quarterbacks from Western Pennsylvania. It's kind of eerie, no pun intended, but it's kind of eerie to see what was in the water down there. for all these rocket arm quarterbacks to come out. Now in Pennsylvania, we have the Big 33, which we usually play against Texas, which is the high school all-star game, and there are some big-time players that play in that game. I would include Pennsylvania, honestly, Jeff, if I could, in your Florida, Texas, California.
They're in my list. I know what PA brings. I play with a lot of PA guys throughout my career. So, but for some reason, when people are bringing it up now, they talk about Texas and Cali, and I'm like, you got to throw PA in there. They still got some guys. So, I just wanted to bring that up.
Has it changed, Hixie? Since is it still the sort of? I'm from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, so we suck. But is it? So we have nothing to. When it comes to football, that's not what you think of when you think of Cape Cod. But what has the culture in PA changed? I mean, I remember I just was reading Mike Westhoff, our special teams coach, his biography or autobiography that just came out, and he was talking growing up in PA and how just how tough it was. He got into fights and everything was really that sort of blue collar, hardworking community, and how that lended itself to obviously really good football. Has it changed since? I mean, is it different now? And Jeff, this is for you too. I'm just curious. Is it still what it was back then?
I would say it has changed. Gone are the days in Western Pennsylvania and downrange Pennsylvania. The steel mills are gone.
Yeah.
Coal production has not been what it is. I don't mean to get into a micro and macroeconomics discussion here, but I believe it's changed. And obviously, I haven't lived there since the day I went to Maryland. But I would say this last generation, the boomer generation, is the last generation that backbreaking work and built that strong work ethic. And as you guys know, kids just don't have that day these days. And a lot of parents didn't grow up in that tougher environment. Some did, but some did not. So I would say that would affect the level of competition and quality of player that you have.
Yeah, no question. Jeff and I have talked about that. Jeff, your upbringing, and then mine having parents from Brooklyn and grandparents from Italy. How that that upbringing really plays a big role. So that's really interesting. Going back to your time in Kansas City, Eric, what were on this show we love to talk about different stories and things that we went through as players. Give us some of your sort of favorite stories in Kansas City, specifically training camp. I mean, I bet you had some really cool stories. You talk about just learning from Derek Thomas and what that was like. I mean, what were some of the things that stand out to you when you think back to your time in KC?
I would say kind of hectic at the beginning, having Marty Schottenheimer for 1 year, then having Gunther Cunningham for 2, rest his soul. I feel like my career really didn't. I had some success before Coach Vermeil got there, but when Coach Vermeil got there, I really started to excel and get fairly dominant at what I was doing. And I was a left end, I was a run playing end, like you mentioned before. And most teams ran right because they're right-handed. So I got a lot of business over there, and business was booming. I held myself, pretty well. But I've had great experiences, like I said, with Derek Thomas, Leslie O'Neal, Warren Moon, guys like that, Tony Gonzalez. We really just had a tight-knit family. And like I said earlier, and when we started talking, I didn't have all that growing up.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that a man could love me unconditionally. And that's what Coach Vermeil does. He still calls me and calls his quote unquote guys, once every week, 2 weeks. And I kind of liken it to Camelot in a way, just the way it was kind of romanticized, but it was also kind of like Ocean's 11, getting the gang together for one last heist.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But it was just a pleasure to be able to be in a place with owners like the Hunt family We never wanted for anything, as much as I probably assume that the Chiefs players never want for anything. Now that's a class act family. And as you know, Mike and Jeff, not a lot of organizations out there like the Chiefs.
No.
And the Chiefs will be firm and they'll let you go if they need to, but they do it with class. Yeah. And everything they do is with class. So, it was a remarkable time.
Yeah, it's really true. I mean, Jeff, we've talked about this, the sort of, Allen, the equipment manager, always brings that sign, right, and puts it, whether it be a training camp or whether we're playing preseason game, regular season game, it's always on the wall in the locker room. It says, come in as teammates, leave as a family. Yep. And, man, I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I can still text Andy Reid and he'll check in on me and the coaching staff and the players that were there. And I spent most of my time in New York, and I love the coaches there and the players there as well. But it's not
the same relationship.
No, even the community, right, Hicksy? I mean, even the community in Kansas City, they were so behind us all the time. It didn't matter what was going on. Like, you knew the community had our back, the organization had our back, the Hunts. Really, really a special place. So Hicksy, before we let you go, man, just let's talk about the team this year. What do you like about this team going into 2022? What are some of the things you see, some of the things you don't like? I mean, give us sort of the Hicksy rundown of the current Kansas City Chiefs.
Well, I thought the Tyreek Hill move was good, that they allowed him to be traded to Miami. There's only so many people you can give that big of a slice of the cap to. And, we got back a pretty good haul for sending him over there. We wish him nothing but the best. I hope he kind of shuts his mouth a little bit about this accuracy and quarterback type. which is.
You don't believe him? You don't believe him, Hicksy?
No,
Come on.
Get you a friend that lies for you like Tyreek is lying for Tua right now.
I thought that was good. Bringing in Juju Smith-Schuster and a couple other guys was an excellent move. Obviously, Orlando Brown reported the training camp yesterday. So he's the kind of guy. I played against his dad, Orlando Senior, Zeus as they called him. But Zeus Jr. is a big man. So if he was just going to try to show up and play at the beginning of the season, it probably wouldn't have worked out too well. So good on him for reporting and signing his franchise tender. Obviously, we got the main dog back there and Patrick, and I think he's only progressing and getting better and better and better with the tutelage from Andy Reid. I like what we did on defense with the signing of Carlos Dunlap, who's been a good player in this league, and hopefully the linebackers will continue to grow. That's a young group. Secondary is still a young group. They've been together for a while now, but they're still only in their fifth year. But they've made some big-time plays in some big-time games now. You're talking, 4 AFC championships now in a row? That says volumes for their football acumen. So I'm excited for it. It's going to be a tough season. All the prognosticators are for years trying to put the Chiefs down, but I don't see it happening. No. It's not going to be a perfect season, but I anticipate us to be ready to go when all the dust settles.
Yeah, if only Mahomes was as accurate as Tua, we would really have everything. Yeah. But Hicksy, listen, before we let you go, I got to tell you I love you, and I'm grateful for you, and I wouldn't have had the career in the NFL that I had without you taking me under your wing and going out of your way to make sure that I was learning the game. And, I know this is a Chiefs podcast, so I stayed away from a lot of the Jeff stuff, but I could give story after story of you having my back and helping me through that really tough season. And that was the foundation of my career. So I love you, and I'm grateful for you, brother. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Big Jeff, as always, thank you, brother. And Chiefs Kingdom, we will be back next week. More training camp, more all the good stuff, talking about the players. We finally got the pads on. I'm fired up. Look, I get the camo hat. I got my training camp shirt. I'm fired up. So we'll be back next week to talk more Chiefs football from a player's perspective. Hicksy, Jeff, love you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Go ahead, Chiefs Kingdom. Let's get it.
Yes, sir. Go Chiefs.
Thank you.